Hi, I'm Alana Melanson from the Lowell Sun. Today we are interviewing Mike Tierney, owner of Tierney's Tattoos in Lowell. We're going to talk about the tattoo industry. So Mike, how did you get started in the tattoo business?
I got started when I was right out of high school. I wanted a tattoo so bad that I tattooed myself, actually. So then I started pursuing in the area for apprenticeships. And I couldn't find any in Massachusetts, so I traveled down to Florida. That's it.
So how long have you been tattooing?
About 10 years now. Yeah.
And how long have you been set up here in Lowell?
This is my third year.
And what brought you to the city?
I actually grew up in Lowell as a kid. I have a lot of friends from Lowell, and some clientele from Lowell as well. And to be honest with you, the rent was cheap for the location, so I couldn't pass up the opportunity. This building was used as a tattoo parlor before, and it was unsuccessful, and I just happened to stumble across it right when I was looking to expand my business, so I jumped on the opportunity right away.
And where were you previously located?
I was in Billerica, working for a guy over there. Before that I was in Watertown, in the mall. Before that I was in Everett, in the Boston area. So just hopping around to a lot of different studios.
And how is business here in Lowell?
It's pretty good, actually, surprisingly.
Because, it seems that the tattoo industry has exploded over recent years, and curious, how that has affected you as a tattoo artist and business owner.
I'm surprised that it exploded the way that it did. I mean, when I first started getting into tattooing, I knew it'd be a good way to make money, but I was really just thinking in a passionate way. I like doing it. I never expected for it to spiral out of control the way that it has. But it's also very competitive too. Because it's such a new thing and it's becoming popular, everybody wants to tattoo now. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of competition, and there's a lot of people who are still not up with all the regulations, and because it's a new thing, there's not a lot of regulation yet. So there's a lot of people that are running around tattooing everywhere, and you have to compete with them, and then you also have to compete with all the local businesses.
So what sort of regulations do you have to contend with?
Basically just health regulations, to make sure that it's safe and sanitary. A lot of people, if they don't get the education, if they're not in a licensed establishment, then there's no way to regulate them. That you can't really keep tabs on what everybody's doing.
So now, what do you think has driven this increase in popularity of tattoos?
I think a little bit of it is the media. It's kind of like a fad, if you will. It's a lot of TV shows have been putting it on TV, and like a lot of clothing has been putting tattoo designs on clothing, and I think that's kind of letting everyone know that it's okay and it's like an expression. Also the technology, because all the tattoo equipment's evolved. It's a lot easier to do tattoos. It's more modernized than it used to be. Mm-hmm. So, it's basically like everyone wants them now because they can see how amazing they can come out.
What sort of equipment were you working with when you started versus now?
Well, I wouldn't say it's changed too much. I use coil machines, which are pretty standard, like old school. They have a lot of rotary machines now, pneumatic machines. They have machines that are lighter and easier to use, and they have machines that make less noise. It's all about like the application and the technique, like the grips that you hold when you're writing like a pen. They made changes to the grips. Just the whole application of the tattoo is different now. Mm-hmm. I mean, not too different, but it's easier. It's easier for artists now to do better work. So now the whole community sees that and they get excited about it.
And higher quality tattoos.
Pretty much. Yeah. Not like your pick and poke or jail style,
So, with that, increase in popularity, do you feel that overall the stigma associated with tattoos has changed? Because, it seemed that, in the past there may have been, a sort of image, that people without tattoos may have had, in their minds of people who had them. Do you think that's lessened over the years?
I don't really remember there being ever much of a stigma. I don't know. Maybe I just got lucky. I go to a grocery store and little old ladies will say, "Oh, nice ink," and take my arm and look at it. I've never heard anyone mumbling under their breath anything bad, like, "Hey, look at that guy." But sometimes I forget that I'm covered in tattoos, and maybe I get looks from like little kids. Little kids seem to be like shocked, like, "Wow, look at that guy."
I've never really seen
But
that before.
it just seems like a normal thing. It seems like a lot of people are covered in tattoos. And I just walk around and say, "Hey, this is what I do for work. I feel like I fit right in." And I don't notice anything.
So we can see your neck and your arms. How much of your body is covered in tattoos?
Probably like 60%.
Wow. So now, when your customers come in, do you have more sort of people like yourself who already have a lot of tattoos, or a lot of people who are just getting their first tattoo?
A little bit of both. The demographic's pretty even. We get a lot of young people and they just turn 18. I also have people in their 40s and 50s who have midlife crisis, and they just all of a sudden go from no ink to getting sleeved up because all their kids are out of the house, or they got divorced, or they're going, I don't know, whatever happened, they just want to get inked up. I think the oldest person we've tattooed was probably about 70.
Wow. What sort of tattoo do they get?
A little flower.
So you had said before you do a lot of custom work.
Yeah.
Can you maybe talk about the types of tattoos that you do?
Well, I'm pretty well rounded. I don't have like a genre that I stick with. If I did, I wouldn't make much money doing that. I try to be creative and just do whatever the customer wants. So when they come in, I try to work with them and interpret what they want and try to put the best artwork I can that's based on what they kind of interpret to me. We do have a whole bunch of resources and artwork for people to pick from if that's what they want, but we try to veer away from that so we're not plagiarizing anything. And that way everything's kind of new, and it gives you that wow factor that no one's really seen that before. Not the same old tattoo that 10 people have.
Is that what you prefer to do? To do something
I prefer
original?
it, yeah. And even if they like another piece of art that's from another famous artist who's well respected and they want to kind of duplicate it, I still rather do a spin-off of it. So it's not like just taking their artwork and copying it, We get a lot of people that do that. They just kind of they saw something they liked and they want it exactly like that. I'm like, alright, well, I'll do my best, but we're going to make it a little bit different,
So you said you do a lot of different types of tattoos, but are there any sort of particular images or themes or anything like that that's more popular?
I wouldn't say so. I do a lot of cover-ups, though, believe it or not. That's kind of one of my specialties.
Really? Could you tell us a bit about that?
Cover-ups, the restoration tattoos, basically what we can do is go into an existing tattoo and repair it, make it look better or enhance it, or we can completely cover it up. A successful cover-up is really camouflaging it, trying to use new artwork to kind of hide the old one. And we have a lot of people that either change their mind a few years later down the road and want something different, or they got like a husband or wife's name, need to get that removed. Or they, for whatever reason, financially, they couldn't afford to go to a reputable shop. They went to someone on the street and weren't satisfied with it, and now later on they're trying to get it fixed. That seems to be pretty much where most of our business comes from, actually.
Oh. How difficult is that to sort of cover up an old tattoo with a new one?
It is difficult. It is difficult, but at the same time it's not, because going back to what I said earlier with the technology, now we have computers, we have Photoshop programs, we can actually take pictures of their existing tattoo and put it on the computer and superimpose designs over it to see how it will cover, to see if it will be successful or not, to work with the existing lines and shadows in the old tattoo to make sure it's going to cover, so we can give the client kind of a visual of what we plan to do and why it's going to work before they even get it. Also, the pigments are better, the application of the tattoos are better, and if the tattoo that they want covered is old, maybe from the 80s or 90s, and it was not done professionally, those are usually easier to cover up.
They fade more easily.
Yeah.
What's the cost associated with with the work?
We try to be really competitive. We charge $100 an hour. A lot of artists, they just give a flat rate, pretty much whatever they need for the day or whatever they think their work is worth. But I actually like to just stick with the hourly rate. That way people who shop around, they know that other places charge more for the hour, and I also work a little bit faster and I'm more productive, so you're saving a little bit on the hour, but and you feel like you're getting a little more, and I feel like it's a fair price for the cost of business and for me to make enough money. I also charge separately for materials, kind of like an auto mechanic who would charge you for parts for the car and labor, because since I work faster and my hourly rate's a little bit lower, sometimes it does cut into the budget for expenses, materials, overhead, and stuff like that. It takes away from my income, so I just charge them separate for the materials used.
Sailor, little devil guy, pretty common. It's wicked faded. Now that's something that would probably be easier to laser remove, but it would also cost about $500 to $1,000. You could see how easily that can be covered with a fairly small tattoo for $100. And you know, unless you're against getting more tattoos at all, then most people would just opt out of the laser and get a new tattoo over it. Then you have harder ones like this. I don't know what that was supposed to be, but it was ugly and the guy didn't like it. So, you know, I just drew on him with the pen, using the lines in the existing tattoo to create a new shape, and I made it into a skull and a rose. And that was about half of the guy's arm. If you had the laser remove that, you'd be looking at about $2,000 or $3,000 in multiple sessions. You might get scar tissue. Instead, that only took us about 3 hours.
What I think about the tattoo removal, there's pros and cons with that, and I think, especially because we do cover-ups here, some tattoos, if they're professionally done and they're big and they have a lot of pigments in them, the laser doesn't necessarily take out all the pigment. So, and on smaller designs, smaller old faded tattoos from many years ago, those are probably the easiest ones to laser, but they're also the easiest ones to cover up. And covering them up is a much more affordable way. So I've actually only had to send 2 people to get laser removal because I couldn't cover up their tattoo.
Out of how many people?
Thousands. I wish I could say I was undefeated and that I covered everything, but there's always that one that's like really impossible, and I just said, you know, maybe if you have 1 or 2 treatments and lighten it, it'll be easier. But the problem with laser is the more treatments you do, it could leave scarring. There's the risk of scarring. I always try to tell people, if you can cover it without laser, try to cover it. Unless, for some other unrelated reason, they're just done with tattoos and don't want a tattoo. For a job, like maybe they just got out of prison, or that's the worst case scenario, I hate to say, but maybe they're starting their life over, a new career, and they have to get rid of their neck tattoos. They have to be gone. Or if there's some kind of health-related issue, they're allergic to a pigment. And I actually knew a guy who that happened to. That was a really weird experience. He was allergic to the red, which is the most common I heard, but it's never happened to me. The only one person who's ever been allergic to red. He had to be put on medication because all of his tattoos where it was red would flare up and get really itchy and blister. Like his skin would try to reject it, but it wouldn't, so he'd get infections. They had to put him on medication. And something like that, you'd probably want to use the laser to break up the pigment, because that's the way it works. It actually breaks apart the pigment.
Now, is there any way to tell, you know, prior to getting the tattoo, whether or not you're allergic to the ink?
There's no way to tell if you're allergic, but we do, when we do our intake form, we ask if they have any allergies. We ask if they could write it down if they know about it, because some allergies to foods or other things could be the same with the metals in the pigment. And another thing is a spot test, which we offer. Not a lot of people do it, but you can do like a freckle almost. You can do a little spot tattoo on them if you're worried that they might be allergic, and then you can wait a week or two and see what happens. Kind of like what they do at the doctor when they inject you with different allergies and see if you get a bump from it. It's like an allergy test. We can do a spot test.
Would you say you have more new or return customers?
We have a lot of return customers, but we also have a lot of new customers. All of our new customers, most of them come from the returning customers. It's word of mouth, basically. Some person might hear of us from an ad or a flyer, very rarely, although the advertisement does work. I did a survey once to try to figure out what was working, and about 10% of our advertisements were working. So I said, I'm not paying for ads anymore. 70% was word of mouth. One person's happy, they tell their whole family and all their friends, so that's pretty much. You'll get one person that will come in for like a couple of weeks and they'll have like tattoo fever. They'll just keep going. Or you'll have people who will come in once a year and get it on their birthday or tax season or something.
So Chris Taney here from the Lowell Sun. I'm here with Taney's Tattoos in Lowell, and I'm here with
David Jamie.
David. David, when did you start getting tattoos?
Actually, a couple months ago.
Yeah, and do these tattoos have any meaning, or you just like the design, or?
Some do. It's a Marine Corps one, and the Rosary, and Catholic, and this thing had these guys design it. It's more like power and overcoming things. It's Maori and Polynesian.
Nice. And is that part of your heritage, the
No,
Polynesian?
but it's that's what I believe in. I'm going through a lot, and it's just my motivation.
Nice, nice. So how much do you think you have invested in tattoos?
Well, I don't know, like $3,000 maybe.
$3,000. Nice. And do you think you'll ever remove any in the future, or you'll cover them up, or
No, that's
it's
why
for life?
That's why I waited later in life.
Nice.
So I won't remove them.
All right, thank
I feel
you.
like you're darker than you were last week.
It's been out in the sun.
What do you want to work on today? Just for like camera's sake,
Yep. It's the first thing I thought too. You're getting ready for the foundation work.
Yeah. Came out really nice though, and I only put 8 hours into it.
Hey, so you gotta give me that number to that guy.
Okay.
You said there's property right next to it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Give him a call, see what's up.
I was wondering if you guys take walk-ins. And then, like, I want to get something like that. Yeah, that's cool. I want to get it on my wrist. Yeah. How much do you think it would be?
Depends how big you want to do it, and also if you want to change it up a little bit, maybe